So today, we need to discuss something I've been wanting to discuss on the channel for a long time now. A little part of me was hoping that Rothfuss would follow through with his promise, and I wouldn't even need to make a video on this, but it's 2023, guys, so we should probably talk about it. Today, I am covering the controversy of Patrick Rothfuss's charity, and the chapter of the Doors of Stone that was promised that we never got. The lost chapter, if you will. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, every single year Rothfuss runs a fundraiser through his charity called World Builders. Now, to clarify, World Builders has become pretty much a charity juggernaut in helping with humanitarian efforts, with many charities like Heifer International, which is an organization working to end hunger and poverty around the world. So by no means does this controversy affect the charity. I think the charity is fantastic. What I'm going to be criticizing is the promises that Rothfuss made during the fundraiser. Now, back in 2021, he made a wager of 3 parts. If people were able to raise a certain amount of money for his charity before he was able to slay the Ender Dragon in Minecraft, then 1, he would read the entire prologue to the Doors of Stone on a live stream, which he did do, and that was great. The thing is, if you're a Kingkiller Chronicle fan, you know that the prologue, it kind of reuses a big chunk of it, so really you're only getting, a couple paragraphs of new content. I love the prologue in the Kingkiller Chronicle, but that's not a lot of new content. Thankfully, those few paragraphs that we did get actually had a lot of interesting information in them. I made a full video analyzing the Doors of Stone prologue, and there is a surprising amount of new detail in there, specifically regarding the Waystone Inn being a Greystone and other stuff. I don't want to spoil it all. Now, since the prologue stretch goal went incredibly well, he then made another stretch goal, and if this was met, he promised that he would read a full chapter from the Doors of Stone. It didn't necessarily have to be chapter 1, he said it was going to be a spoiler-free chapter. Yet again, the stretch goal was completely demolished. However, Patrick Rothfuss kind of tried to backtrack on this. He said he was going to do an all or nothing stretch goal, but then after some complaints, his community manager spoke with him and Rothfuss reassured everybody that he would be releasing the chapter regardless. He then added another stretch goal to have a superstar team of voice actors narrate the chapter that he was going to release. Anyways, the goal was met and the final amount that was raised for the fundraiser was $1.25 million. Like I said, after the fundraiser, he read the prologue shortly after, and then in December, he said that the chapter reading would be in February at the latest. It is now March 18th, 2023, and we've had exactly 0 official communication from Rothfuss about this. Nothing on his blog. He hasn't addressed the missing chapter, except for, I believe in a live stream, he did say that he's just having difficulty getting everyone scheduled together in order to narrate this chapter. The thing is, I don't think there is a chapter. I don't think there was a chapter. If there was, I feel like by now he should simply just put it up on his website. I mean, or read it like he did with the prologue. Everybody would be happy with that. But he's kind of dug himself into this hole now where he's just not addressing it. And I'm gonna be honest, while I still love the Kingkiller Chronicle, I am very disappointed in this. People donated a lot of money to this charity specifically to get that chapter reading. Of course, just donating to charity is great, but obviously his fan base was really hoping on getting that chapter because that was a promise that he made. I am not really one for rushing artists. I think it's fine if an author takes a long time to finish their series, and I think Patrick Rothfuss is among one of the best fantasy writers alive. But it is unacceptable to fundraise around a chapter if you don't have a chapter to give. It was a single chapter that was promised, and one that we could all assume he had already written, but say that he didn't write it, a lot of authors would be able to, write a 2,000 to 4,000 word chapter within a couple days. If you want to be real generous, give the man a week, or 2, or 3. Give the man a full month if he needs it. But like I said, it's now 2023, and there still isn't a chapter. Insert hello darkness, my old friend. Like I said, maybe the schedules didn't work out for the voice actors, but he should still release the chapter because it's just going to look really bad on his charity. It's really disappointing because I think his charity is for a good cause, and I empathize with Rothfuss. I know he's suffered from bad anxiety and depression, and he's talked about that, and if the man needs to focus on his mental health before finishing the third book, then he should do that. I don't think he needs to be pressured as much as he is by his fans, but he still should not be making a promise like this that he can't keep. And it's one of those problems of his own making. He didn't need to promise the chapter, but he did, and now it's something else that people can badger him about. And yes, I am sort of calling him out on this because I don't think it was right for him to make that promise. Not delivering on this is likely going to see a massive reduction in campaign donations to his fundraiser in the future. And sure enough, in 2022, there was no World Builders charity event, and that's something that hasn't happened in years. Not to mention, there still hasn't been a 10th anniversary edition for the Wise Man's Fear yet, and we haven't really had communication about that either. So the lack of communication really makes it difficult to be a Kingkiller fan. Now, while Patrick Rothfuss does own the charity, I believe the funds go directly to Heifer International. However, that doesn't mean that he's not directly benefiting from the success of the charity. I mean, there's the fact that he pays himself nearly $80,000 to rent out the building that acts as the HQ for the charity. Just to clarify, he's by no means pocketing $1.3 million and running. No, it's going to charity, but it does help pay for the building that acts as the HQ. Now, Rothfuss has used book 3 as incentive for this charity for years now. I remember one time he promised a stream where he was just writing the book, and you couldn't even see what he was writing. It was basically just a stream of him typing on his computer. I'm assuming that wasn't the chapter, because otherwise we'd probably have it by now. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that he does benefit a little bit from these charities, and I think it's just a bad look to not follow through on your promise. Let me just say that I do feel like I have contributed to his fan base in some way, and I don't mean that to be like big-headed or anything. Obviously, the Kingkiller Chronicle has been a very popular series ever since the books came out, way before I made videos on them, but I have used my platform and my genuine passion for these books to introduce people to a lot of the fan theories out there that they had no idea about, and I know for a fact that I've introduced a ton of new fans to this series. So it can be a little disheartening when the author has such a hard time with communicating with his fans. I've always given Rothfuss the benefit of the doubt. I've never been the type of person to crucify him for taking his time with the book. I think he should take the time to make a book he's proud of. But when it comes to things like this, where he's just completely being silent on the issue, and it's a promise that he made that he's basically breaking to his fans that gave a lot of money to his charity, to see this promise be fulfilled, I'm gonna be honest, it kind of takes away some of my passion for this series. And I am a huge fan of the Kingkiller Chronicle. There's still so many videos that I want to make. I want to make a theory video on who the king is that Kvothe kills. I want to make an entire world building explained video where I go over all the world building in Temerant and basically summarize it for you. And I still plan on making those videos. There's still a ton of videos I want to make. But like I said, some of my passion kind of has drained away a little bit just because the lack of communication there with the author. This is kind of the first time where I'm starting to question if he can't even give us the one chapter that he promised, how much of book 3 is written. I remember a couple years back, he gave us some information about the Barrow King, which was a part he was writing at the time. So I like to think that he does have a good chunk of the third book written. But yeah, it can be very difficult being a Kingkiller fan, even more so than being a Song of Ice and Fire fan, because George R.R. Martin has at least a ton of projects that he's worked on. He has other books that he's written and other things going on in his franchise. But with Rothfuss, we've really just had a slow regard of Silent Things as far as like spin-offs. Like I said, I believe this is going to affect his charity. That's why there probably wasn't a fundraiser in 2022. So maybe he will end up releasing the chapter later this year so that he can do another fundraiser this year. And because there really hasn't been any official apology as of yet, I could see that maybe he'll just kind of sweep it under the rug and do his usual pattern of avoidance, and maybe he'll just mention in a stream stream one time that he's also disappointed in himself for not getting it out there. And you know, in some ways I can relate to getting overwhelmed by stress and then trying to just avoid something. I've done that in the past with, you know, deadlines in college where I would wait till like the last minute to finally write my essay, or I'll just kind of avoid a bunch of emails. If my inbox is getting overwhelmed, I'll try to just kind of avoid it and forget about it. So I understand that mindset, but again, this $1.25 million was raised for your charity, and you promised people this one chapter, so I would like to be more optimistic about the Kingkiller Chronicle again. It can just be difficult, and the thing is, I've always wanted to meet Patrick Rothfuss. I've always wanted to sit down with him and have a discussion about book 3 once it's out, and maybe go over some of the theories that I had, or something like that. The thing is though, I know that he's on social media, on Twitter and stuff, I know that he's blocked some people simply for asking about the release date of book 3. I don't know if that was just from a lot of pressure he was dealing with at the time. I don't know if he's still doing that. So I don't know if he'll block me if he sees this video. Rothfuss, I love you. Please don't block me. I know our relationship is a little bit rocky right now, but I still love you. I can't quite make a heart, but don't leave me, Rothfuss. Fantasy authors taking a long time to finish up their series is nothing new. We've seen this a lot in the fantasy genre, so I don't really care if he takes more time to finish up book 3, but I do think that his fan base would give him way less of a hard time if he just had better communication. Take for example Brandon Sanderson. One of the reasons why I love him so much is because he has such great communication with his fans. Also, he does happen to write like a madman. Not the best comparison, but if Rothfuss was more open and not so closed off about his progress, and also was showing that he had at least some sort of progress, I feel like his fans would be a lot less bitter. I think it's completely fine if he wants to take his time and end the trilogy right. And if he needs to take some time to deal with his mental health, I think that is great as well. That should always come first. But the thing is that there isn't much communication, so it's hard to even tell if he has that same amount of passion to finish the trilogy. Now regardless, The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear are always going to mean a lot to me. I read them at the perfect time, and they've helped me a lot in my life. And my passion for these books has even really made my channel what it is today. And so I'm always going to thank Rothfuss for that. I just hope that one day he'll work through some things in his life and that he'll wake up from this slumber and have that same passion for Kvothe's story that he once had, and that we'll finally get some closure. But hey, honestly, by the time that I write my own fantasy series, if there still is no book 3, I might just start writing a fan version of book 3 so that I can give myself some closure and whoever wants to read it. Anyways, that is it for this video. Let me know what you think about all of this. Am I being too negative right now? Am I being not negative enough? Let me know in the comments. This is kind of a difficult topic to make because, again, I am a big Kingkiller fan, but this is something I'm really disappointed in. Don't be worried, I'll still continue to make Kingkiller videos. Anyways, a huge thank you to all of my patrons. You guys make these videos possible. I appreciate your support so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.